Hi everyone, welcome back to Gold Price. This is the SGPC K29 case. It is so tiny, the volume is just 4 liters, and huge thanks to SGPC for sending this over. Now the retail price over in Malaysia is about RM 250-ish, but I've seen it as low as 211, so it is somewhat affordable. However, you have to consider that this is RM 200 over, which is going about US dollars, is anywhere from 50-60 US or so for just a piece of folded metal as the case. Of course, the case itself is unique, being 3 liters in size, and it does come with a handle. And check out the package accessories. There's plenty of screws and whatever else you need for you to set it up, to get it up and running like this. And then of course there's the cover, which is this one, of which I have not removed the sticker because I actually like the frosted look rather than the clear look. So it will go on to the case like this, and it is entirely made for you to carry around. Now let me bring it closer to you so you have a look at this. Is what it looks like. Very simple. Everything is built inside. Here's the top part, which is the handle, and then the front, which is the USB drives and all, and at the rear, the ports for the motherboard. I'm using the ASRock H610M HDV M.2 R2.0, which is an off-size micro ATX motherboard. Typically, a micro ATX motherboard will be bigger than this and will not fit. You need to find off-size compact micro ATX motherboard or ITX motherboard. Then you can use it with this case. Using an Intel stock cooler, which I'm running the Intel Core i3-12100 because it cannot run any graphics card, so you need to use the onboard graphics. And I'm using Kingsman's memory and storage. And as you can see, the power supply, it is a flex power supply because the typical small form factor power supply, the SFX ones, will not fit, so you need a flex type. So happens I'm using a modular version, so I can manage the cables just fine. Pretty much that. If anything I'd feedback about this case, it will be how the folded metal is not entirely accurate. So sometimes when you're trying to secure the screws for the panel, it can be a challenge depending on the build quality, whether you get something that is off alignment. But so far mine seems okay. And then there's the thing about the handle. You see at the top there's a dust filter, but the dust filter is glued to it, so you can't remove it to put the dust filter. You can remove it probably by force tearing it to place the handle, but seems like I don't think that's a good idea. So what I did was I did some incision on, I measured the holes of the handle and then made some incisions on areas which I think the securing screw should fit through, of course, which is exactly did right now. And that's how I got it to secure with the dust filter still there. Basically, you still have to do some operation work to punch some holes for the securing screws to go through, and then you can secure it like what I am doing right now. So 3 liters, really great for someone who wants something compact. You know, it can be standing vertically or you can rest it horizontally. Whichever way, it is compact. It is great for those of you who really want something compact, and you know, typically drive it is possible to put additional storage, but I went with single M.2, and then that's pretty much it. Processor, you can go higher end processors like i5 or even i7, as long as you can get sufficient or cooling that is within the height requirement and cool sufficiently. And the thing about going i5 and i7, I personally do not recommend it, simply because when it comes to motherboard, right, typically it is the lowest end motherboard that is of size that can fit into this. For example, I'm using the H610M HDV series from ASRock. Will be the lowest, whatever product stack they have. Like they have the Taichi Aqua on the highest end side, but the lowest is always the HDV. So the HDV models typically does not come with VRM cooling. So if you're using an i7, i9, it's not just a VRM issue, is you'll be having challenge of getting the right cooler to do the task. So in this case, I'm using an i3, which is sufficient for whatever task it is that's on. I mean, you can run with this kind of cooling and without the VRM heatsink. This is just something to highlight to you so that you don't do silly things like pairing a Core i9 on a HDV lowest end motherboard and say that the board sucks. I know some people are actually capable of doing that, which you have to understand. When you're using the highest end CPU, you should not be pairing it with the lowest end motherboard. It does not make any sense. And this applies here, exactly here, because when you're having compact, when you have a small form factor setup, you are really at the limit. And in this case, it's not just small. It's so small that the only choice of motherboard should be, I mean, for micro ATX at least, it would be like this kind of the HDV low end motherboard. Of course, if you want to run an i7, i9 and you are using a Z690 or Z790 high-end micro ATX, mini ITX motherboard, then of course the heatsink will most likely be sufficient for those purposes. So I'm highlighting micro ATX because typically when people buy these kind of things, they would like to run as cheap as they can with, or should I say, lowest cost as possible. So a motherboard like this, low-end motherboards, micro ATX ones, typically like RM 300, 400, or in US dollars, probably even below 100 US, which is very different from paying for an mini ITX motherboard that's typically like 200, 300, 400 US. With even with a high-end board that supports the highest or high-end, whatever high-end CPU, you will have another issue like what I mentioned, cooling. Of course, you don't go with you can choose to go with the non-K variants for the Intel stuff. It will, the non-K ones, i7 non-K models, maybe I haven't tested it out, but those are matters of concern. For AMD stuff, it's the same. If you typically have to use something like a 5600G, which I think with the stock cooler will fit perfectly well. 5700G should be okay as well. 5900X, well, all these models you cannot use. So typically I think AMD's system will work very well in the setup like this too. And going with say A320, A520 base motherboard, those are really potential setups. Of course, whether you choose Intel or AMD depends on your usage. If you want the onboard graphics to be more powerful for gaming purpose, then I highly recommend going with the AMD like 5600G, 5700G. Or if you are going for, let's say, video editing, or maybe this is a secondary machine to do streaming and all that, Intel I think would be a better choice because of the onboard graphics and the support of a lot of codecs, including AV1, which is actually more efficient, more effective than what AMD has to offer. So bear in mind all this. What about the 7000 series AMD? Nope. Even the lowest end AM5 motherboard that I have, which you can check out my review, it does not fit well. I mean, it can go in, but there's a very limited space. I think it can go in, yeah, but it's still very limited space. And you can use the ITX model, but well, are you comfortable paying so much for ITX motherboard for the AM5 right now? And of course, you can use the stock cooler with let's say a 7900. Yeah, I guess you can run that kind of configuration. So all in all, it's entirely up to you. But I'm just blabbering through all this so that you know what you're getting into, because having something of this size, this form factor, is so attractive, especially if for some reason you want to travel. It can fit into many bags. Even if you are using typical like camera bags, it will fit just fine, and carry along your mouse, keyboard, and your external monitor. There's external monitor, okay, like mobile screen or compact portable monitors. I have one, which is my monitor is actually bigger than this. My monitor is 15 inch or so, it's wider than this. So basically, yes, it is an entirely something that you can actually consider if you are looking for something, a PC that you can lug it around. I mean, you have various other options around the market, but this one is pretty good simply because for its slim profile, comes with a handle, and yeah, you'll get the job done. And that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and once again, thanks SGPC for sending over this K29 for me to evaluate and try out. Certainly like this product a lot. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Stay curious and do remember to subscribe to this channel if you haven't. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.